Raindrops keep falling on my head, but that doesn't mean my eyes will soon be.
What's up, Panther fans? I know what's up. A dagger to the heart. The Panthers fall to an 0-2 hole in the Stanley Cup Finals. Still fucking cool to say Stanley Cup Finals. My name's Kevin Rodengen. You're listening to the FLA Catnip podcast, and I'm of course joined by my best bud, Jake Houston. And we're here to talk about the last two games of the Stanley Cup Finals. The Panthers went 11-1 in the last 12 games in the playoffs and now have lost 2 in a row. Jake, let's talk about what we just witnessed.
Oh, God, Kevin. The euphoric highs and lows of Stanley Cup playoff hockey. Well, Kevin, the Florida Panthers are in the Stanley Cup Finals. We're 2 games in, and so far our all-time record in the Stanley Cup Finals is 0-6. We have never won in the Stanley Cup Finals. But that being said, there's a lot of good to take away from game 1. I'm optimistic about our return to FLA Live Arena. I'm feeling good about it. I think that this game was always going to be based on sort of some home crowd energy. Vegas is famously one of the best home crowds in the Stanley Cup Finals. And that was really counting, on the idea of the Vegas flu, which I don't think the Panthers were a part of this year. I don't think any of them were like, hey, we got to go out gambling and the strip clubs. But that being said, that is a loud arena. So I think we've got some good coming to us at FLA Live, and I'm excited for games 3 and 4.
Let's just, talk about the elephant in the room. The Panthers had a 10-game break before they entered the Stanley Cup Finals, and there was a lot of talk about that, whether that would hurt them, and it's pretty obvious from the way we came out in these first 2 games that we were out of our rhythm. It just didn't seem like the Panthers we saw in the Eastern Conference Finals or the dominant team we had seen ever since they took on the Bruins in the first round.
Kev, I went back and forth 100 times on this. I thought to myself, oh, yeah, every team suffers from the long layoff. Then you look at the Colorado Avalanche last year that had a long layoff and then won the Stanley Cup. Obviously, a lot of stories came out about how much time Sergei Bobrovsky needs to recover. He loses 10 to 20 pounds every game, he says. And I thought, you know what? That could be pretty nice. We go into game 1, and right before game 1, we find out Eetu Lesterainen is not going to be playing the game. Lomberg jumping up to the 3rd line. Zach Dalpe filling in on the 4th line. That was a concerning issue for me. Lesterainen has been fantastic these playoffs, and I'm a big Lomberg fan. I really am. And I think Zach Dalpe was fantastic in the games he's been called upon. But Lesterainen is one of those cogs that makes the engine go. That was a big issue for me. I really was concerned going to that game. And then as we quickly saw, too much time off really didn't do Bob that great. He lets in 4 goals with the 5th empty netter. And then, of course, game 2, quite a few more than that. Kev, what do you think about how this long layoff affected Sergei Bobrovsky?
I don't think any of us have ever seen him on a hot streak like this throughout the entire time he's been with the Florida Panthers. This, performance was looking like the Vezina Bob from the Columbus Blue Jackets, and he found something that he hadn't found yet with this team. And I think any break from that was gonna have an impact on him. So super disappointing to see him not able to keep that thing going. And obviously, as we saw in game 2, he gets pulled and Alex Lyon gets there in the net. But let's start with game 1. Let's kind of break this apart and go through each of the beats here. Eric Staal comes in flying, shorthanded goal to start the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's been a long time since a shorthanded goal opened the Stanley Cup Finals. I was jumping up and down. I was going, my God, this is it. We're going for it.
Going back to that Eric Staal goal, he puts it right off another man's stick. He hates to see that, especially in Pride Month. He's very anti. Sorry. I just had to. Sorry. Yeah, Kev, that first goal from Eric Staal was fantastic. You love to see that off the shorthand.
Not so long after, the Panther killer, Jonathan Marchessault, he's got 3 goals already in this series. Jake, comments on Jonathan Marchessault?
He looks like he is going to be the thorn in the Panthers' side this entire series. The former Panther who had an elite season for us before the Golden Knights snatched him up in that the expansion draft. He puts it away. He has looked like a killer. He's been scoring tons of goals. He's been drawing penalties. Really tough for the Panthers. Absolutely.
Yeah, it almost seemed like we gave him away in the expansion draft. He has a killer season for us, almost 30 goals, I believe.
Kevin, if it seems like we gave him away in that expansion draft, that's because we didn't just give him away. We gave Riley Smith away to get them to take Jonathan Marchessault, two cornerstones of the Vegas Golden Knights, two original members of the Misfit line who are absolutely, Marchessault especially, have an effect on this series.
And you know who we were protecting at the time? Alex Petrovic, that we wanted to protect.
Kevin, I'm sorry, who?
Yeah, good point. One of our young, promising defensemen, Dale Talon, decided was far more valuable than these two offensive juggernauts that the Golden Knights now have created a core
Wait,
around.
we protected a guy for these two players? That player must be doing really well for us now. Where is that player? Also, where is Dale Talon now?
Yes, exactly. The pain continues as Cousins gets robbed, absolutely robbed by Adin Hill. Possibly the greatest saves of the year happens in the Stanley Cup Finals against Cousins there. And yeah, he has a wide open net. Adin Hill with his, 6'5" frame just reaches out as far as he could and gets just the tip of his stick and saves that.
My personal response to that, it was a great save, but everyone's making out to be the greatest of all time. There was a follow-up shot that was blocked by a defender. If it goes in, no one's talking about that save. It was a fantastic save, but is it the save if it comes in game one? Let's relax, everybody. That being said, Adin Hill holding a True Hockey stick, the company that makes the stick and makes great skates. If True Hockey doesn't find a way to make that into their marketing for their goalie materials next year, what are they doing? It was a gorgeous picture. Beautiful save. I won't give it away from that. But come on, it's game one. The save, relax.
Yeah, to be fair, the save looked cool also because Adin Hill was like 5 feet out of his net. I don't know why he slid that far out of his crease and had to launch that far back to try and make the save, but it basically looked like there was no goalie and he had to get back to recover that. So he made a giant mistake biting on that first pass and then recovered for it famously. So,
hey, Kev, given how sort of superstitious hockey players are, I'm going to go ahead and stop us right there and just say that was the greatest save I've ever seen. Adin Hill will never make a better save. He didn't bite. He was amazing sliding across the crease. Anyway, on to the next.
I've been fascinated anyway watching this guy. He is a mountain. Funny, his last name is Hill, and they call him, I think, the Big Hill or whatever. He definitely looks like a mountain. Crouches down, he's on his knees, and his head still comes up way above the net. It's wild to see the difference between him and Sergei Bobrovsky.
Listen, all credit where credit is due. He has had an incredible playoffs. He's had better traditional stats than Sergei. Coming into the series, the only thing that Sergei had him beat on is sort of the counting advanced analytics goal save above expected. But Adin Hill has been fantastic. And if you're anybody else on anybody else's team, I know we all have a little bit of disdain for the Golden Knights being as good as they are this early into their tenure. Adin Hill has been a fantastic story. So I'm excited for him. And, listening to some of the podcasts, some of the news, this is a guy who might have found himself out of the league in a couple of years, who's now looking at making $5 million a year in the next couple of years due to his performance. So all credit where credit is due. The Panthers have to find a way to beat him. We thought to ourselves, maybe this is just a amateur, sort of fourth, third string goalie that the Panthers could really light up. He's really showing himself to be the real deal. That is a storyline for the Panthers going forward. We cannot expect him to let in some easy squeakers.
The other thing about him, too, is he's extremely aggressive when anybody gets in his crease after he makes the save, and he's pushing guys around, and it's causing a ruckus. He is causing the stir, that happens afterward, and then I've seen a few big penalties called on us afterward. So, and that all stems from Adin Hill trying to get at players and then his own guys defending him.
Game one was relatively close at first. It looked pretty good. The Panthers scored first, which traditionally in these playoffs has meant the Panthers are going to win. But we had a couple back and forth situations. Of course, it culminated in that Mark Stone amazing keep in on the clear from Matthew Tkachuk to then rip it home, which of course was challenged by Paul Maurice. which led to a penalty. Kev, do you think that was the swing in momentum that has led to us being in this 2-0 hole so far?
Yeah, it's definitely a good point. I watched that goal and I immediately thought, no goal. I thought it was way above. Obviously, the refs, know the rules better than I do. But I thought, okay, that's high sticking, no goal. Simple. Obviously, Mark Stone's body is at an extreme slant there, and he manages to bat it down what seems to be, I guess, below the shoulder line. Now, it seemed way above his shoulder line, but my argument is that is a giant man. He is a huge hockey player, and it looked like he had it still way above his own shoulders at that moment. So I don't know. It was a weird call that I guess Paul Maurice called the refs out, that they made a little too quickly. They didn't review it too much before they ruled it a no goal and then gave us the penalty. Yeah, I was a little disappointed how short it took for them to review that and how much of a momentum swing, as you mentioned, it turned out to be.
We end up losing that game, and that's disappointing. But that being said, we expected some, tough lumps coming from a Vegas team at home in the playoffs.
Don't forget the 3 posts that we hit that game too. I mean, any of those go in, it's a completely different hockey game. Matthew Tkachuk gets one, Barkov gets another post. And those shots were beating Adin Hill from far out. And I want to bring that up because we need to be shooting on this guy a little further out. I know Vegas is famous for blocking shots now, as we've seen in these 2 games, but none of this dipsy doodle shit in front of the net. Like, we need to be shooting. And I think we're going to beat this goalie probably further than those face-off dots in the zone. I think it's not going to happen in the crease.
No, Kevin, I think any other team, any other series, I might dress you down for mentioning goals that could have been because we hit off the pipes. But this Panthers team really seemed determined. There was a lot of very serious energy going in off pipes, off crossbars. There was a lot of energy that seemed like this should have been the Panthers game. So I think we came out of that game feeling, okay, yes, we're down 1-0, but that could have easily been up 1-0. We go into game 2, and that optimism is entirely erased, Kevin. What do you think about game 2 with this overwhelming, absolutely suppressing Vegas offense?
I mean, game 2 was far more frustrating to watch. Obviously, we're down 4-0 heading into the 3rd period, and our 2 Conn Smythe Trophy nominees, one gets pulled and the other gets 2 10-minute misconducts, and they're not even playing in this hockey game, it felt like. So that's just brutal. It felt like we got ripped apart there. This was a psychological win for the Vegas Golden Knights as much as it was on the scoreboard. We really need to recover from that in so many different ways. We need Tkachuk on the ice. I know he's been playing very similarly to how he's been playing the rest of this playoffs, but for whatever reason, it feels like the police have caught him now. And now they're just, going to throw him out whenever they see any of this shit happening behind the scenes. And so he's got to stop. That's just the way it is. It's unfortunate. They've found a way that the refs are going to call him out for it now. And so he has to stop if he wants to play in these games.
No, 100%, Kev. This was a disheartening game. Obviously, we started off the Knights look incredible. They are just dominating play to start the game. When we finally get our first good break, Carter Verhaeghe on that breakaway, he just looks exhausted. He is an absolute speed demon and a sniper. And we just kind of see him deke it right into the pads, Adin Hill. What did you think of that breakaway, Kev?
For a man who is famous for sniping, I was surprised he went for the deke. And as we saw, Reinhart in the first game gets a shorthanded breakaway while it's 2-4, I believe. And he goes for the deke. I thought maybe Verhaeghe would have learned from that and thought, okay, I'm going to try something else here and maybe take a shot on Adin Hill, because often Adin Hill doesn't come out aggressively. He stays back in his net because he's a giant. He doesn't want to come out too far. It becomes challenging. So I was surprised Verhaeghe went for the shot, and I didn't see any chance of that going in off of the deke.
It was really tough seeing Sergei Bobrovsky get pulled. Obviously, we have, as Panthers fans, hung a lot of our Stanley Cup hopes on him. He lets in 4 goals off of less than 20 shots. Kev, what do you think we are seeing going forward from Florida Panthers goalies?
First of all, I'm always trying to stay a little optimistic. Sergei Bobrovsky, you brought us to the Stanley Cup Finals. Like already, we said it in our last podcast. If we never made it any further than where we did so far, he would have already earned the money he's making. It's so tough to watch that fall apart now. But this is going to be a big awakening moment for the Panthers and for Sergei Bobrovsky. I do think he absolutely starts game 3 at home in Sunrise. I know it's been tough, but I've seen now he has the capabilities. I think it would be a mistake to let Lyon try and run with this, with the Stanley Cup on the line.
I don't think there's a chance that Alex Lyon gets the net. There might have been when Alex came in. Unfortunately, Alex let in 3 goals on 15 shots. Technically, that's better than what Sergei did in this game. He had a 800 against Sergei Bobrovsky's 692. I think this team goes as far as Sergei Bobrovsky takes them, and that is probably not a controversial statement. I really don't think anyone thinks that Lyon was going to take this over. That being said, obviously, if we had come back, if we had scored a bunch more, if Lyon had shut the door, you have to let Lyon have game 3. It is Sergei Bobrovsky's net for game 3. There's no shot Alex Lyon is getting it. We just got to hope that it is the Sergei Bobrovsky of rounds 2 and 3, and not the Sergei Bobrovsky of the regular season and these last 2 games.
And to be fair, also a huge defensive zone mistake on one of the goals on Alex Lyon leaves Marchessault alone with like 10 seconds to do whatever he wants on him. I couldn't believe what I saw when Marchessault was left alone there. I think Ekblad was on another planet for a moment there. I don't know what he was thinking, not covering the front of the net, but we had 4 Florida Panthers going after 2 Vegas Golden Knights in the corner where no one can score a goal. All of a sudden, Marchessault is alone on Alex Lyon.
It was just insult to injury. I felt bad for Alex Lyon. He started off the playoffs with such a great story, but he really got left out to dry. Panthers just played horribly. Honestly, we needed Matthew Tkachuk. We needed him out there. We needed him to step up. There's been so many stories about him leading into the series. There was a People magazine story about him. We really just need him to come in and score some goals. And I'm really hoping we'll see that when we go back to FLA Live Arena.
And at least one highlight of this game for the Florida Panther fans is Tkachuk's hit on Jack Eichel. That was just a freight train hit, center ice kind of hit. Eichel makes it look way worse, of course, because he toe picks right before that, and there's some head contact involved. It causes a big stir for sure, nonetheless, with the Vegas Golden Knights. And then I don't know what happens after that, but Tkachuk gets thrown out. That was a bummer that Tkachuk again gets a 10-minute misconduct for that. But what a beautiful hit in an attempt to get the Panthers back and awaken his teammates. Against, of course, one of the best players on the Vegas Golden Knights.
Very clean hit. I don't think anyone was disputing that. Obviously, you feel for Jack. You want to make sure he's okay. This is, not to make him into a one-on-one or anything like that, but he is, the first poster child for this surgery for the NHL. So he goes off the ice, he comes back out, he plays a third. You're happy to see it. You want to make sure that every good player has a quality of life. So I'm glad to see that wasn't a problem. That being said, Matthew Tkachuk eliminated from the game again, and we need him. We need him on the ice. He is the most important player out there for us. And clearly Bob has shown himself to be first 2 games a little dicey. We need both those guys clicking if we're going to win this series.
Another player I'm seeing getting physical, which is great, is Alexander Barkov. You saw him in game 1 make a couple big hits on Jack Eichel. I loved seeing that. He's definitely found his playoff form as far as physicality. Still, nonetheless, it's the same story with him. You got to see him shoot a little bit more. He hit the post in game 1. He didn't quite have as many good chances in game 2. We got to see Alexander Barkov be the sniper, and he's the kind of guy who will be scoring against Dayton Hill because we do need shots from far out.
There was a very specific chance on a power play. I don't remember which one it was, where the commentators commentated, say that 10 times fast, that Alexander Barkov had not shot when he should have. He was closing in. It was very clear he had an open shot on goal, and he made a pass looking for Matthew Tkachuk. He got intercepted by their team. We need Alexander Barkov, who has a beautiful wrist shot and an incredible one-timer, to be firing on net. That is a elite player. He's amazing on defense. He's amazing with the passing. He's amazing with the puck handling. He is not aware how good he is shooting the puck, and he needs to be, because if he shoots the puck more often, the Panthers win more often. Other notes, Radko Guda is taken out of the game after the hit from Ivan Barbashev. We hope he comes back next game. He's a very important player for us. Seriously, one of the players that is getting the most storylines. His beard, his energy, his hitting, his play, his playmaking. Seriously, this is a guy who, in my opinion, has flown under the radar so much in the National Hockey League. He should get paid this offseason. So hopefully he's back next game, because I don't know where the Panthers go without him.
And that was his birthday as the Panthers lose that game too. And he comes out flying, hitting everybody. And obviously Ivan Barbashev kind of figured him out, was waiting for that hit, gave him the little reverse hit. And that takes Gudas out of the game. So tough to see. Like you said, we really need Gudas out there. Irreplaceable presence right now. Yeah, we'll have to see in Sunrise if he makes it back into that game. I know he was already dinged up before he even came out tonight.
Kevin, we are looking on a game 3 going back to FLA Arena. I want to talk about my X factor for the game. Alexander Barkov. I think he needs to step up in front of the home fans. I think he needs to make some plays. I think he needs to take some shots. I don't think this is a controversial pick. You know, everyone wants to come up with the person that came out of nowhere. I think Alexander Barkov needs to make a sick play in game 3 and get us going. We saw it last series when he did that between the legs and scored. He had a goal before that, and the game before that. I honestly think Alexander Barkov is the key of this series. Kev, who do you think besides Alexander Barkov needs to be the X factor here?
Yeah, it's another obvious one, but it's Matthew Tkachuk. And I need him to be on the ice for the full hockey game. He is useless out there. I know he's been getting into the heads of so many guys throughout this playoffs. It's not working against the Vegas Golden Knights. For whatever reason, they're more disciplined than we are. The refs are on their side. It seems they don't like what Matthew Tkachuk's doing. They've got an eye on him at all times. So he's just got to stop that game. Luckily, Tkachuk has so much more than that game. And he can be an offensive weapon. He can be a disturbance in front of the net. We just need him to use his other weapons instead of that get under your skin one. I'm looking for him to make some crucial big passes, get our power play going again, maybe get in front of the net as Barkov takes a nice ripper. That would be the ultimate kind of play I think Tkachuk could contribute into getting us back in this series.
I want to give 2 honorable mentions of X Factors. These are the next obvious people. It's not crazy to pull them out, but I think Sam Bennett and Carter Verhaeghe can really make a difference in this series, especially going back home. I think Sam Bennett is a fucking gamer. Everyone's been talking about him all playoffs, and everyone knows what a difference he can make. Carter Verhaeghe will come out of the slot. He will come out of the corner. He will shovel away a wrist shot that ends the series. Both these guys, gamers. Barkov, Tkachuk, gamers. The Florida Panthers are still in this. I'm guaranteeing we come out of this homestand tied 2-2. We go back to Vegas, and we're ready to make this a series.
Game 3, must win. Let's go crazy, fans. Don't come in there with a broken heart. We're in the Stanley Cup Finals. Live every single one of these moments, because who knows when we'll be back here again. We've got a good fucking team. They've played hard for us to get to this point. We should be proud of them. So let's come out roaring. It's not over. It's going to be incredible to be there. Keep your heads held up high. Whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, baby.
So proud. Go Panthers, baby.